the moment I hard focused, the hustle came back into that one singular kind of thing. Let's just say I'm doing better than I've ever done. And I thought I was on top of the world 3 years ago, corporate-wise.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO, consulting, and tax strategy services. Now, I told y'all, it's season 2. Season 2, I said I had to go do some research. I had to go tap into the resources and get some big people, some important people, some people that were already making moves so that they can come back and give y'all more value. And you know what? I went to this conference at the beginning of July. It was dope. Never been to Cancun before. Shout out to Cancun because it's
Hell yeah.
a different type of hot. And you know what? I sat next to this guy. We only talked a little bit because of the exercises, because, you know, they always had us doing something, or you're hungry and standing in line. But afterwards, we connected. I forgot what we started laughing about. Come to find out, we had a mutual acquaintance. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris is here on the podcast. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Now you got to tell the people name of the company, what you guys do, and who you serve.
Yeah. We're Chris DiGiovanni from Detailers Roadmap, 8-Bit Creative. We are hyper niche into the detailing realm. So someone who's going to detail ceramic coat, window tint, paint protection film, your vehicle, we build websites and SEO for them. So that's us. That's us in a nutshell. Super automotive, websites and SEO. Happy pants.
All right, cool. All right, so I've actually
trying to get a reaction out of you. Say happy pants. See if I can get somebody.
So we have somebody, an actual client that's been with us for, I think, 3 years, that's in that same industry. So I'm kind of excited because this may be like a for him episode. But kind of tell us the beginning of the journey, right? So let's go back in time to when you first started the agency and just kind of walk us through what it was like. Where did you transition from, et cetera?
Yeah. And what kind of prompted me to reach back out is you asked if has anybody, I can't remember if you said 1 million or has hit 1 million annual or 3 million or something like that. That's kind of what prompted me to reach back out. Long story short, and I'll try and condense it because I don't want anyone to fall asleep. But basically, I came from big corporate. So I was the director of marketing for one of the biggest seafood companies in the entire world. So we would do all the marketing for seafood, the one product nobody really wants.
I gotta ask. Now that you
wait, first, where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta.
Okay, so seafood is common down there. Up north, it gets a little spotty.
Is it because they just closed? See, it could be because you're not there. Is it Red Lobster?
No, but Red Lobster was a big customer of ours.
Okay. All right, keep going. Because I was about to say, are we not getting cheddar biscuits anymore because you're not working with
cheddar biscuits? I love cheddar biscuits. I worked for a supplier to companies that would buy from them. So like Red Lobster was a big, guess what, lobster and shrimp customer of theirs. Costco and Jewel Osco and Safeway, all this stuff. So basically, I had a corporate job. And prior to that, I also worked for my dad, who is a small business owner, worked in the seafood industry. Actually loved it. Loved corporate, to be honest. I know that's kind of an odd thing that somebody would say, do you really love corporate? I really actually enjoyed the job and I enjoyed the people. COVID happened, right? I feel like everybody's got that mile marker during COVID. And COVID happened and my salary got cut pretty substantially. And then I noticed a trend where my bonus, because we were very bonus based, was basically, how do I say this in the nicest way, was determined if the coffee was good that morning or not. It was not financially based. So my swing in my bonuses was wild. And even if I built a brand for the seafood company that was going to bring in 100 million, my bonus was really based off of how my boss felt that day, that one day per year, right? And then the COVID thing happened, and you start looking around. And this whole time, I subscribed to the Gary V, Alex Hermosi drink of hustle, hustle, hustle. I don't know if you noticed that. Like 3-4 years ago, they were like push, 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 push. So that whole time, I had an agency that I built up, and I had auto detailing manufacturing clients. So like Turtle Wax could call us, and we would, we could do their social media, we could do their stuff. And you're probably wondering how I got those relationships. And basically, the whole time I was a director of marketing of seafood, I had an agency that I built up with a few employees, and I had an e-commerce company in the detailing realm. And basically, it was like, this is crazy. This is getting kind of out of hand. That hustle culture of having 3 businesses, a full-time job. I thought having lots of passive and active income was like the dream. And really, working 100 hours really made me miserable. And so COVID happened, and I was like, I really got to consolidate down. And so I left my seafood company job that I loved. And then I sold my partnership in the e-commerce business that was doing really well. And I basically just hard focused on our agency. And so even though we were working with manufacturers, so like if you're talking about the vertical, right, you're talking with that manufacturer that might manufacture detailing supplies. I literally said, they're great, but how do I talk to a more scalable side of detailing businesses that are buying from them? And so, long story short, we're coming up on 1,000 customers in 3 years. Concurrent customers, recurring customers that are, part of our partnership.
All right. So you said a lot of good stuff right there. See, I told you were going to do it. You didn't believe me. All right. So let's go back because you just dropped a lot of goodness right there. So I think one thing I want you to try to get into, if you can, for me, you talked about that kind of hustle culture mentality, because literally when I do my signature talk, I bring up Gary Vee too, because when I started, it's been 6 years. So that first year or two, it was the same thing. It's like, I just got to go, go, go.
Go.
10, 11, 12-hour day. Yeah, I've done all this stuff. And to your point, like, that's cool if it's a sprint, maybe 30, 60 days, but not for a long-term sustainable company or way to do things. So, like, what are some of the lessons you got from that outside of just like, I can't do this?
Yeah, I mean, and you speak to a lot of agency owners too that offer ads, SEO, website, consulting. Like, I realized really early is like, I went from 4 or 5 businesses. I was doing everything, and I felt like I was doing everything at a high level, but I was letting a lot slip off the plate, right? Like, I wasn't being proactive on that. And so going back to what you said is like, man, I just want to do a couple things really fantastic. Really, really, really fantastic. And so even if you look at our product offering today, which is just websites and SEO, I don't do ads. I don't do lead generation. We don't do LSAs. We don't do videos, all this stuff. We just hard focus. And holy shit, boy, did that connect with people really well. Because when you hard focus on, like, I do 1 or 2 things amazing, and I can develop the process even tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. I mean, we're talking, we would do, maybe started out with a few websites a month to, doing 20, 30, 40 websites a month just in one industry. And I think it's hard for entrepreneurs to really hard focus on a couple things. Cameron was with us at TCS, and it's like they talk about visionaries and then they talk about integrators. I probably sway a little tighter towards the integrator or the COO just a tad bit, because I'm a big numbers guy. Like, hey, I'm not going to make a move until I financially know stuff is working, right? And so I'm very like process oriented in my vision. So when I made a website, how do I repeat this 15, 20 times over? That's not a template. That's not something that looks like it was just popped up. And so that hard focus boy, I remember telling my wife coming off of corporate, selling my partnership, which I made nothing basically, and just doing this. And I was like, we ain't going to make shit for years, just so you know. Like I'm going to literally take a salary that was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm just letting you know, I'm like, I'm going to do this agency thing that I had many hustles, right? 3, 4 hustles going on. And I had like a lot of decent income coming in. I'm like, I just want to hard focus. The moment I hard focused, the hustle came back into that one singular kind of thing. Let's just say I'm doing better than I've ever done. And I thought I was on top of the world 3 years ago, corporate wise. So,
And see, I think that is super important because I've had that opportunity pop up so many times where, like, I remember at the beginning, people were like, Cameron, you should be a financial advisor too. Like, get your series, what is it, 66 and
7.
67, get all of that too. So now you'll be able to do all the taxes and then funnel them into that. And back then, when we're just going to say it, I was broke because you know how it is when you first start
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm like, that would be cool, but that's also more time I have to spend to master something else and try to be not just good, because I don't like to just be good. We want to be great. We want to be above
Yeah.
average.
You want the
I'm like,
10,000 hours.
I'm like, I just rather outsource that to somebody else, put food on their plate, and just partner with them. Then they were like, well, Cameron, you should sell insurance because you know all the financials and know. And I'm like, no, for the same reason. And even now, I've had somebody try to say I should get into like taxes, but for people who are like expats that are trying to shelter it because they moved to Barbados. And I'm like, look, that's cool and everything. But like people don't understand the amount of time you have to put in to be great at something and not just be average is really high. So I
Yeah.
think that is so dope that you were like, you know what? We're going to get really good at 1, 2, 3 things, and we're just going to be the best at doing that. And I
Yeah.
think that's awesome to go from, 4 or 5 businesses to that. So I think that's good. Now let's stay there though. Now
Sure.
you
Yeah, yeah.
said you had like 4 businesses. Everybody tries to do that now, and I know you laugh at it, and I'm sure it's made sense, so to speak. But like, what were some of the challenges you were having? Because to your point, okay, I'm doing this, and I got this on the side, then I got this over here, then I got this. Then you're talking about babe. We still gotta do date nights and all those things. So like, how did you balance all of that, or did you not?
Yeah, I used when I was building the agency while I had a full-time job, I would go and find either part-time people to help me that were specialists in what they were at. Delegating really, really is the source of kind of happiness for me, if I'm being honest. Um, do I think I develop a better site than a lot of developers here at the office? I think if I sat down, my ego is going to come in. I'm like, I'm the best designer. Do I think I could write the best? I'm the best writer. But the reality is, when I started delegating and giving people leadership of like, I want you to make these decisions because I can't make these decisions, but I know you can. And once you let people run with what they're willing to try and make their own mistakes, not ask for permission, but ask for forgiveness, it a lot of times has led to areas of expertise in the business that all of a sudden escalated us further and further and further and further. Um, and so it's just, you have to understand, $500,000 e-commerce business, doing pretty good on corporate, had an agency with 6 or 7 manufacturing clients, had websites as well. So there's 4 parts of this business. It's just the reality is like, I think that was a chest beating moment. Like, oh, I do this, 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 this. And people be like, what do you do? Like, you do all this? I'm like, yeah. And the reality is like working till 2 a.m. for great money sounded like great at the time. But boy, health wise, it just goes to shit, or friendship wise, I can't go out and all that stuff because of this. Whereas go figure, once I learned like consolidate and delegate, consolidate and delegate. Like, consolidate your thoughts, get visionary with it, get really isolated, and then delegate to who you think is going to really be the best model person for it. Personally and company wise, we've never done better once we kind of really started picking that part. And we've grown from, 1 employee 3 years ago to coming up on 20, with everybody involved. And it's just helped over time. So,
Okay, now let's stay right there. So you talked about now. I love how you talked about, okay, first I'll just get part-time people. Then as I got focused, then we were able to go from 1 to now 20 employees. What has that been like, and just seeing how your team has grown and systems and processes and how to keep everybody moving in the same direction instead of everybody doing their own thing? Like, break that down for us, because a lot of people are probably at that stage, if they're not to the $1 million mark, where they're like, all right, I have a team of 3 or 4. How do I keep them from arguing, or everybody on the same mission?
yeah, I mean, for me, it comes back to, believe it or not, numbers first. So saying 1 to 20 is great, but there's probably someone down the street from me right now that went from 1 to 100 in half the amount of time. For me, it's always been like, what are our goals a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And are we financially in a positive state to hire the next person, or do we really need this? And the real question we like to ask is like, who can we give that can own this? And we call this the CEO of. It's a great thing. My director of success and Ellery, who's our creative lead at the office, has come up with, which is, you're the CEO of. So when we hire someone, we tell them, what are you the CEO of? Are you the CEO of social media here? Are you the CEO of web development? Are you the CEO of writing? We want them to own something. And when I come back to the numbers, and I get into people's faces, people that we consult with too, is like, I am tired of like business owners taking draws like it's a piggy bank. Personally, like, your business is not a piggy bank. Pay yourself a respectable salary that you are comfortable with, that you're not going to flush and crush your company down with, but you make a salary that you're comfortable to live on. And then you will look at the business in a completely different manner, that you'll understand your cash flow if you can actually hire someone, instead of winging it every single month of like, I talked to a guy the other day. He's like, I make 20 grand or I make 10. No, you don't. The company makes 20 or 10. You personally should separate yourself from the company. You work for the company, right? You're the owner, but you work for the company. Understand what you can take as a salary, and then you can justify these decisions to grow your company or not after the fact. So if let's say you're taking 10 grand out of that 20 every month, you can say, I have a profit of 10. And for me, numbers make an easier sense to understand if you can grow your company based on your cash flow. That's how I have always looked at employees, or should we bring this new service in, or XYZ.
But even with myself, I remember at the beginning, it's like, okay, you take most of it because, of course, you don't have that much revenue. But as you make more, you're like, okay, let me pay myself just this amount. Business handles this. And it's a growth process. And then as I got around more and more business owners that were doing the right things, it's like, okay, ooh, Cameron is an employee of Kinley Consulting. It is not one and the same, even though, of course, I own it. So I think a lot of people just struggle to make that transition, because I've never made 20 grand in 1 month. And I mean, to be fair, the average American doesn't. Like, I know in our circles, that's common. Like, people making 50 grand, 100 grand a month. We know that. But the average American, that's in a good college type job, right? You're only making 5, 6, maybe 7K a month. And that's including that's not even taking out taxes. So I think what you're really getting at here is, guys, you have to make that transition to being an owner, not just contract for hire, not just the hitman.
Technician mindset, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what have you seen with that? Because I mean, I think that's a struggle for a lot of people. And I mean, us being in accounting and even with the consulting, when we get people, some of them we have to like really sit them down and say, hey, you're telling me that there's no cash flow in the business, but you're taking $40,000 in distributions too.
Right.
You're not even taking the salary like you're supposed to in your S corp or whatever. I have so many examples, but like, how would you help or encourage that person that's kind of struggling with that, but they're making the actual cash?
Yeah, I mean, so my customer is detailing operations, and our business, those operations can start as low as like a $50,000 a year guy out of his garage detailing to, you know, really the max you're really going to do as a detailing operation is like 5 million a year. But it's a pretty big run, right? I mean, that's a pretty wide berth. You tend to fall a lot of these guys that are doing 200 to 750,000 a year as a business. And I just always say is like, don't you ever wonder, have you ever had to wonder where your next paycheck is? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, like that. And wasn't there some security there of knowing what your stable line is every month that you know you could rely on? And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, give yourself that once you get into cash flow. I talked to a guy yesterday. He was like, next week I'm going to give myself a $2,000 draw. And last week I gave myself $40, $400 draw. The month before was 4,000. I'm like, stabilize. So I personally think, obviously, I would prefer people would reconcile their books right away, get on top of it. It makes numbers way easier. But really, that 12th month of kind of having some data, which is always they're going to be in growth, right? They're always going to have triple, double digit growth usually. But get into a stable pattern of what you can live on, and then inch yourself up once you feel comfortable. But the ability of cash flow lets you make financial decisions for the business. And so I'm going to really kind of hone in on something very specific here, is that when I know I have a certain amount of cash flow, because I have one rule and one motto always, which is do it right or don't do it at all. I wanted the best podcaster I could find in my industry. For that was Kevin Davis, who you've been on his podcast for us. So in my head, I was looking at it like, okay, what can I afford? And if I can't afford it, what do I need to save to get up to these certain levels or whatever? And understanding your numbers really tells you how to generate more revenue, if that makes sense. So if I'm going to bring in someone who's going to generate revenue for the company, what do I need to afford? Versus if I'm taking draws, I am just, excuse the language, fucking batting it around left and right. I'm just I'm hitting the pendulum nonstop, dunk, and that's, the business wants stability. Stop being the variable control in your business of swinging that all the way around. Give it a stable line. You can always inch yourself up. Don't get me wrong. If you're going from 50 grand to 150 grand months and you have bonus cash flow all the time, then take yourself up then if you are truly doing more or need to pay yourself back. I'm not saying don't underpay yourself or overpay, but I see a lot of people treat that business as a piggy bank, and then they wonder why they can't do marketing 6 months later, or they can't hire this person 9 months later. And it's really because, you crushed your business, throughout the whole year.
I love that. And then I'm just going to even add on to that. It is possible, but you have to slow down. I think all of us are guilty of getting in the day to day, and it's just like show up, work. Versus at some point, you have to sit down, you have to make a plan. Okay, what is my budget for my normal bills? Like, let's say that's 3 grand. Well, then hypothetically, you don't need but 3,200 to pay all your bills. And then, okay, I got 200 left. I got to go out to eat or buy something or whatever. But that budget should include your groceries, your bill, your rent, your mortgage, your internet, your phone, etc. And then you can do what he's talking about, which is stabilizing the business, stabilizing the cash flow versus, oh man, yeah, I think I need some more money. So, oh, we got 5 grand in there. Cool. I'm gonna take 3.
Yeah.
Like there's no budget, there's nothing streamlined. And so I know that for the beginning companies that we've worked with in the past, that's always been the challenge to even get them to the mindset of let's start there. So that's why even with us, we kind of limit working with startups unless it's like a real, like the Lord Himself has told me. that make an exception to work with you.
So, so you won't work with people until they hit certain stable numbers, right?
Yeah, because in our case, right, like we try to make it to where our monthly retainer is between like 2 to 4% of your total revenue. So that's just how we are. I don't know where I got that from, but it's just always worked. So for us, we've worked with somebody who came in the door making, I think, 7 or 8 grand. Now they're up to about 18 to 20 grand. It's been about 2 years, but it was a steady growth. And I don't know why I just believed in them. They're my passion project, right? We have another agency that they were making, I think, 4 to 6 grand a month. Don't even know how I messed around and got them, but we just kept working with them, kept giving them strategies. And last month, I was so excited because they finally got the 25 grand. It was a huge jump because of some
Nice.
different things. So it's not to say that we can't, but we found that it's a lot harder. And see, that particular couple, right, their lifestyle didn't warrant them needing a lot either. They traveled, they were older. So it was a lot of different variables there. But on the average, it's just really hard to try to teach somebody who doesn't have that much money or is not used to that much money. Hey, you should have a plan and only use this. That's hard for people,
Yeah, and
versus
to go off of what you said is like my business model is actually built on stability. So, my contractors are banging on the walls. So our business model, we take a website that's $6,000 to $10,000, and we literally let them slow pay it off over 2 years. So I'm literally taking the stability out of numbers. I'm putting it into our cash flow. So, going to what you said of having a line of growth. So every single month, we know what's coming in and we know what's going out every single month. So instead of me worrying about if I'm going to sell 30 sites this month with our sales team, we're literally kind of having customers pay off their sites over these course of these years, which there's some risk for sure, but we provide a high value. Is I would tell people who are listening to this, what could you do with your business that can give you a stable line, right? To not have to worry about if somebody's coming in and you have to do marketing to sell more PPC, more ads, more SEO, more websites. So what we do is we stabilize it out and we say, hey, someone comes in for a site, here's the price. Here's a small initial investment you have to make. And then we're going to break that price over 2 years. And so it's takes a weight off the customer's chest, puts a weight off of our chest because we know we're going to get paid, and we're going to provide support that whole time. We're going to give them more value and give you a hint. They never leave because they get so much value of us supporting the site, and then they want to do more things with their business. So I'm a numbers guy. I want to see them stay for as long as possible. I'm not really interested in selling a website once and never talking to someone again. That's the
okay.
kiss of
Let's go
death.
there because now you're getting into something else. So now you're starting to talk about LTV and churn. So tell us, in your opinion, if you are an agency and you want to reduce churn, these are some of the things that we've done that have helped us keep customers for the long run. Go.
So reducing churn a lot of times comes down to value and communication for us. So when we build websites, it's not a take money, take information, and then we'll call you in 6 weeks when round one's ready, or 2 weeks, or 6 months. So the whole time, communication. Every single week, you're getting an update of what's going on or why this is happening or XYZ. So for me, communication and community is a big thing. So they come into our Facebook group. We talk to them. We do kind of mentorship pieces as well. Build relationships is going to have a much more fundamental long-term value. Okay, so just dumbing it down. If you go to your Honda dealer, you're going to see a 55-year-old guy and you're going to see a bunch of 20-year-old guys. The 55-year-old guy almost never gets up for the new sale. Right? He doesn't usually walk out to the parking lot and try and grab someone to sell a car. He's got relationships over and over that he's built over years, that he's just taking calls and farming, if you would say, or cultivating. And so you look at that as like relationships are everything. So during this website process, when we're building it, we're cultivating a communication style with them. We're keeping them updated. When they launch a website with us, the communication even goes through the roof even more. Can you imagine getting a website launched and then your website design crew is like contacting you once a month? Hey, this is what we think you can do. Here's what we're doing on Facebook. Every month, we're kind of showing people what they can do more at their website. So I'm just providing value. And then we come out with these courses where how to market their business better, right? Because if I can teach you how to market your business better, you're probably going to do more stuff with your website. Guess who's your website guy? So not even just marketing. A lot of times we're teaching our customer base who's a 35-year-old, potentially the body is starting to weaken a little bit from working on cars all the time. Hey, how do you scale into employees? How do you, Roadmap kind of showed us how to get there and stuff like that. So relationship building and communication has dropped attrition to below 5%. And we're talking, hundreds and hundreds of customers on board per year. So communication, value building. I think a lot of agency owners always want to build and then sell the next best thing. And for us, I feel like you have to provide such an intense value, not only in the beginning, but during the entire relationship, that it makes it dead obvious of why they're staying on.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's keep going. So now at this point, we've dropped the other businesses. We're super focused on this one. You're having a growth. Now, you mentioned it earlier. You told Bay, I'm about to get real serious. So how has she helped, or what was her mindset or thought like as you went from, babe, I don't know if we're going to be making money, to like now, kind of 3 years later, it's like, we good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, your support network is everything, right? I'm a big believer of like the power of 5. I don't know. Have you ever heard that before? No, you don't know power 5. He shuts off his mic. He turns his mic off when he wants to just hear and listen.
No, I don't think I know it.
So power 5 is, and everybody kind of calls it differently, but the power of 5 is if you look at your 5 best friends, you're generally sitting in the middle.
Oh, okay. You're talking about like you're the sum of the 5 people you're the closest to. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, very similar. Like, my 5 closest friends, I've got a few that I feel like are above me, that are personally achieving a lot more, or financially achieving more, or business-wise achieving more. You might have some that are maybe below you in your eyes, or they might have aspects of their lives that you want. And so, I told my wife, like, hey, this is kind of where I think I want to be in a few years. And like, this is the deficit I'm willing to take. And really when you do it is, and I'm sure everyone here has, a spouse or a significant other that they talk to and say, hey, will you go on this ride with me? She's like, well, do you think you can do it? And I'm like, yep. And she goes, well, I already knew you could do it. So, my wife is starting her own business, and she let that get pushed to the side at the same time as mine. And now we're kind of having a focus on hers because this has gone so well. Once again, consolidate and delegate a little bit, where I can help her build her business now. And she's getting more photography wedding requests than she ever has, and the biggest thing here is just like, that hustle culture and take risk is real for sure. But, in my mind, I'm slightly conservative with taking my risk. I don't know if I'll ever be that person to build a $10 million company within 2 years, but certainly
Is that what you want though?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You have to ask yourself, do you really want certain things like that? I personally love uh, tight relationships. I value relationships and communication. I don't want to walk in the office and not know somebody. That's not fun for me. So, um, and there's getting a point where we're building so many sites and building so many relationships that I don't know every site, which is a crazy thing for me because I know the first 200, 300 relationships I built because I was, involved in some point in every single one. But it's fun to see account managers now have those relationships. I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Okay, wait. I think you done stumbled into something else. Talk about like let's talk through that because I think to your point, everybody's like, I just want to make as much as I can, 10 million, 50 million, whatever. But kind of talk us through what if that's not for you? Like, what's wrong with just being okay with I hit a million and we're good and my life is in balance and our people are getting taken care of? Like, kind of talk us through that because I think society in general, just the pressures, the flashiness of agency owners sometimes, it's no, you gotta, hey, you're at one, you gotta get to five. You're at five, you gotta get to 10. So like talk us kind of through that process.
Yeah, I mean, I will always come back down to numbers is like I want to make sure my people make great money as best as I can serve them, right? I can make great money. I also want to make sure my customers make great money, right? Have a great website, have great SEO, get a high return on value. Um, I never just we our motto is do it right or don't do it at all. And so, if we're like looking at ads or if we're looking at a software to maybe add or a service to add, I don't necessarily want to do it to make more money, if that makes sense. I would do it to enhance either people's lives. So that's either my customer, like, hey, man, I know you've been asking for this. I know you want it. I know you are ready for this next step in your business. But I personally will not release anything that I'm not 100% confident in. That's just the way I'm built. I just can't do it. So, yes, the ads will probably have to be built by me the first time, which is fine. I consolidated and delegated most of the rest of my job. But getting to that 5, 10, 15, 20 million number really for us has to come out of, is that what we want? And will that value go both ways? Can I provide the value to the customer? Can I provide value to the company? And can I provide a value to someone who's going to join the company and do this every day? I'm a big believer in just that person first will naturally get you to certain revenue pieces. So I don't really look at I look at numbers, don't get me wrong, like, oh, I'd like to hit this, but I look at it from it doesn't make sense for us, if that makes sense first. Like everybody's like, go ahead, go high level, do this, do these. I'm like, who am I going to stress currently now in the company to get that? Or should I really be bringing someone in who's going to alleviate stress for someone else on the company? Because I wouldn't say we're thin, but I do, I bring people all the way to that they have something every single day that they're working on and they're getting fulfillment. And, do I think we'll hit 5 million in the next year or two? Yeah, you probably will. But is it what I'm going to die on? Am I going to die on that sword if I don't hit that 5 million? No. Do I need to make sure I'm happier than ever and I'm building happy employees' lives and happy customers' lives first? Yes, that's the first thing. People pleaser, personality complex. That's the problem here.
I love that. Knowing who you are, being self aware, knowing what you want, what you're willing to risk or settle for, all play important roles as you grow. Because as the famed youth pastor Biggie Small says, more money, more problems. So I definitely understand that. All right, let's go here. Tell us what is one of your best investments to date that you feel that's giving you the best ROI. It could be anything, tech, a conference, course.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in a vacuum, to be honest. I have not gone to conferences beyond the one you and I went to. Um,
Really? That
Yeah.
was your first one?
Yeah, for agency stuff in general, yeah.
Oh
So
man.
when I told you like narrow down and only focus on what we offer, I'm dead serious. Didn't go to conferences, didn't definitely did research and looked around of what's the best way to build our sites, what's the best way. Um, I would say for us, if I were to really break into two things, if you wanted to, technology wise, I know everybody uses Go High Level. We used like Keep, or Pipe Drive. I think that has honestly been one of the best things to help pipeline and communicate. It actually makes training easier too, because it shows the new employees like this is where people are in the pipeline. They visually can communicate. The customer gets automatic emails and text of where they are. So we've kind of done pieces there. In terms of like ROI to investment, um, there was a book that I read that's not common. Most people don't know it. It's The War for People. And it's written by a guy who basically he breaks down a personality complex piece that says, the whole personality thing is find people that would be successful in those positions. And when I first started, I hired a teacher. Now, about half the staff here is teachers now. Okay, so I'm going to go on a tangent here for half a second, but I'm going to tell you why people is one of my best ROI. Is that I loved building websites and I loved providing intense value and getting leads for these business owners and getting them to rank at the top of Google. I knew I could do it better than anyone else in my mind. What I hated was the care and letting people know where they are in the process, getting the information from them, getting photos, getting all that stuff. And so I read this book, and the book more or less had said, if you can't afford, this person, you should go outside your realm and still find that personality type. And what I'm talking about is when you start an agency, you need an account manager, more or less, someone who's like the executor. Well, an account manager at that time might have been 60 grand a year. I couldn't afford that. I'm just being honest. COVID was happening and I was just starting the business. And this is within a year, I'm already hiring the first person. But I know I need this because I sold 50 sites this month, right? It's a lot to manage for one person. I could build them, believe it or not, those 50, but I can't manage those
I mean,
relationships.
being able to sell 50 in and of itself is a whole different topic.
Yeah,
But keep going.
sales in the morning, build in the afternoon, and then support those websites too post launch at night. That's how I would do my day. But I can't manage the relationships every single day. And 50 on 50 on 50 on 50 every month, adding all that stuff. So when I read the book basically said, you take the personality and you find what other people fit that personality complex. So a perfect example is that if you want an account manager in your business, who else is typically that personality profile? And it said teachers, it said nurses, it said a lot of caring people, if that makes sense. And so I looked for an ROI of like, I do think our highest ROI is always people, not technology, if I'm being honest. And it said teachers relate to account managers. They have that same personality profile every single time. And so I hired, my very first hire was a teacher. She's actually our director of success. I actually work for her. She's the CEO of the company. She's the director of success. She runs the show. I work for her. I might be the owner, but I basically work for her. And so teachers are great account managers because they care, right? And during COVID, they kind of got, in the nicest way possible, kind of shit on from kids or parents going, not showing up to school or not getting online, teaching online. So they kind of got a little burnout for sure on COVID. And so a teacher is so caring that, hey, here's where you are in the website process. Anything else I can do for you? Anything else I can help you out with? What other questions do you have? Teachers are fantastic people. And I feel like they're super undervalued. And I know a lot of parents a lot of times feel like that too. And the education system is tough on them. But from an ROI standpoint, they're fantastic for a business because they will do everything for the customer, maybe to a detriment. They'll do everything for the customer first to make sure that they're taken care of. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 people at the office that were all teachers.
So that's your secret, investing into teachers. I love it. How has your definition of success changed from 3 years ago to present day?
Yeah, Cameron and I did this thing with Ray Sanders, like value cards. What do you value the most more than anything? I think 3 years ago, you probably would have seen me come out with some a little bit more materialistic answers, like, money or financials. And then today, I really value time. Didn't have much of that 3 years ago. And I know that would be like what was violated. But today, I value that I can walk away at 6 o'clock or take off today, take off next week, take off next month, and the business will fundamentally operate and excel. We have sales processes, we have, everything. It took 3 years to get there, but I'm gonna take off after this podcast. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
work out for 3 hours because I need it. Look at me.
Oh man. Okay. Showing out. All right. Why don't you tell people if you could go back in time, 30 seconds, and you knew everything you knew as of today, and you were going back in time to like high school you or college you, what would you go back and tell them?
Don't worry about the book. Become hyper focused on one or two things and become fantastic at that and make it the best that nobody else has ever seen before. Make those products or services the best you can ever make it, and then find those relationships. Don't be afraid to shake hands. Relationships and communication will always find you. You can have the best hamburger in town, but nobody knows about it unless you tell people about it. But definitely hyper focus. Don't worry about everything else that you can do tens of. So
I'm writing that one down. Focus on 1, 2, 3 things and become. Did you say the
masters.
best? Oh, become.
Just
I
become the
like
master.
become the master. All right, that's solid. All right, next question. What are some things you and wifey do to connect? Because to your point, right? Like I'm running this company. Yes, I'm not in the day to day as much, but I'm doing the sales. That's how we're selling 50 websites a month. So, what are some things that you guys are doing to kind of keep the love alive, still enjoy it, actually enjoy the progress you've made in these 3 years?
Yeah. Date night every week is a real thing. Even when we were smoked busy, honestly, date night, stability, right? Habitual, stable things you're going to do on Thursday night or Saturday or whatever. Date night is really, honestly, it's like the best night. It's the night we get to either go out or watch a movie or, dedicate time where I'm not going to work, she's not going to work. And then taking the fruits of the labor, because she is a travel hound, is like, and I'm a homebody. You put me here in this chair for the next 6 months. Listen, I can talk to people like Cameron. I can play video games and beat children online. I'm happy. Like
Man,
I'm a homebody. I can stay home. I'm cool with it. But making stable, habitual movements to go on, vacations a couple times a year. I screamed that I didn't want to go to see Iceland. Best thing I ever did a couple years ago was go to Iceland. So we're going to, I don't know where we're going next, if I'm being honest. I think it's like Greece or something, or like Portugal. I have no idea. But, it can't be a selfish journey all
ooh,
the
I like
time.
this. So now I got to ask you this because I think I know where you're going. Because my wife gets on me, so I want to see if it's universal. Does your wife get on you for, hey, you can't just work, 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 because you're gonna be 80, and yeah, you made all this money, but you never got to enjoy it.
Mm, yeah. It can't be a selfish journey. You got to really share the goods and let other people guide where you
Mhm.
think you need to try a few things, in my opinion. I, for the longest time, saved every penny. I was habitual of putting 50% of my check away for 10 years. For 10 years, I did it.
Did you say 50%?
50%. Yeah. So I don't mind saying this. I've said it out loud, but when I would make 30 grand or 300,000, I would put 50 grand away or 50% away every check. And I never had a 401k in the corporate company. Believe it or not, they didn't offer it. And then when I worked for my dad in a small business, my dad never offered it as well. And so I realized I never was going to have a retirement, if I'm being honest. Like, nobody was going to offer it. Ironically, today at our company, we offer it. But I realized I want to retire. And I don't do the 50% now, but it's still considered pretty aggressive what I do. Still very aggressive, but then I take the balance that I wasn't doing. So let's say, I'm just going to throw a number out. Let's say I put 25% into funds or something, which still I think is pretty good. I'll take the other 15% and put it into like another fund of like, what are we going to do that my wife is going to ask me to do this year?
Yes. Let
that
me be
that I
prepared.
should spend 5% or 10% of the salary on, or do something, and it's never that much, if I'm being honest. 10% of a salary is insane, but to be honest, it might happen. I don't know. And if we don't use some of that little fun money, I'll invest it and do something fun with it. But I've bought cars. I bought some really fun cars and I'm having a good time. But the stability, again, I'm going back to that number, is like, I know I can make these movements and changes in my life and my business because I've been a stable line on what I have taken as a salary, what I've taken as a retirement, what I've invested into people. I've kept stable pieces to take those risks. So when my wife asked me, and next week we're going to Portugal and we have to do a single stop airplane ride, and I'm going to shoot myself in the face because I hate anything that's not a nonstop airplane ride. I'm over it. I'll know we'll be able to make that because I've made concessions throughout the whole year to do that. So
Okay, now I gotta go here because you brought it up. I didn't know you worked with Pop, so you gotta tell us like what is it like to work with family, and what are maybe some tips in case like you work with wifey or you work with dad or brother. Like, how do you keep that positive with it being family?
yeah, I worked for my dad since I was 8 years old. So from 8 to 21, I either ran a cash register or I installed a pool table or I uh, serviced a hot tub. And then I did another spout for another 5 years after college. How do you keep, I mean, I'll just be honest, and my dad might watch this. Who knows? You, from a business standpoint, I personally believe you should always hire the best person you can find. And I know that's really tough to say because I'm in a business owner, and then now, 15 years ago, I was working for my dad. My dad instilled tons of great work behavior into me, but I would say, if I were to really break it down, because I work with my wife's business, is like, business time is business time, family time is family time. Don't take business back home when it's time for dinner or you're going to go enjoy yourself and stuff like that. And I think that's a very difficult break. My dad was always an emotional decision maker, if that makes sense. Like, you know, I did $1 million in sales the first couple of years. They had never had anyone like that for a long time prior. And then when I would ask my dad for a raise, my dad said no, and he would buy a Mercedes the next day. Like, that was my dad's move.
Are you joking or are you being serious?
No, no, that's serious.
'Cause
Like,
normally
or
you joking.
no, like, I would ask for a raise. I don't think I asked for a raise for the first 3 years when I was professionally working for my dad. And then, or like, my warehouse guy was like telling us like, hey, I'm going to leave. I need a raise. And I would go and, help say to my dad, hey, he's doing a lot for us. My dad would neg it. And then I'll never forget, the next day or next 2 days, bought a brand new Mercedes convertible, like an SL. And I'm like, to me, my dad was a fantastic worker and taught me everything about sales. But where he really had a trouble is that his business was always business at home and made it an emotional standpoint. Because he would, and like we all do, right? Business can either torment you or do great for you. And I think it was tough for my dad to break that off. And I think it's tough for a lot of families to work together 9 to 5, and then at 6 o'clock, guess who you're going to see again? the person you yelled at 3 hours ago. It's just so you have to, and I just truly believe at the end of the day is like you should really work with people that you enjoy working with and do the best job that they can. And sometimes that's not family, and sometimes it is. We have 2 people at work that are brother and sister. You know, they work together great, and if they didn't, I would tell them that and say, "Is this really the fit?" And ironically, it works fantastic. So it's crazy. Yeah, just take that emotional step out of it.
I feel it. I feel it. All right. Well, we know you're a busy person. We went a little over. This is your time. Tell people if they're like, oh man, I like this dude. He's nice. He's calm. This is somebody I need on my team. Tell the people again, name of the company. How can they get in touch with you? What socials they can find you on, etc.
Yeah, never talk to me on social media. I'm a homebody. You should know this by now. No, I'm just kidding. Chris DiGiovanni, you can go visit Detailer's Roadmap sites, 8-Bit Creative. It all comes to me. Really enjoy helping people whenever I can. So if you a lot of times show a problem, I can maybe help solve that problem for you. We're really specialist in the detailing and automotive realm, so SEO and websites. So if you're going to ask me about ads or how can I get to 7 figures within a year like you guys did, I'm going to tell you, here's my expertise. Here's how I can help you. I don't mind helping people out and trying to get them as best as I can. But I would always say, if I'm going to help you with something, what can you help us out with? Like let's make it a mutual relationship here. So that's it. Detailersroadmap.com. Boom City.
All right, cool. All right, y'all. Y'all know how we do. We got to review this. All right, so Chris had 4 companies and was working a full-time job. Was really feeling that Hormozy and Gary Vee just
It was a real thing 4
busted
years
out every
ago.
day. Then he went from that, and the main thing he learned from that was like having multiple companies isn't the brag you think it is. It's not sustainable. Instead, why don't we focus on doing 1 to 3 things at a very exceptional rate and just really double down and focus on that? He narrowed it down to one business, SEO on websites, and he's gone in 3 years from 1 employee to 20. Of course, hit the famous $1 million agency mark. But what I love is he's not caught up in, I mean, he knows his numbers because you should, but it's not about that. It's about who I can help, and making the money is just a byproduct of that. And so he's very relationship driven, as we all should be, because that is what he's using to reduce churn and keep that LTV: communication, value, and community were his 3 tips there. He loved the fact of, guys, you can't treat your business like a piggy bank. You can't just take, take, take. If you want to get to that $1 million, you have to do it in a sustainable way, in a steady way, with a plan. What is your 1 year, your 3 year, your 5 year plan? And then put the proper people in place to help you to get there. I love this part that he said. He said, make your team be their own CEO and own their jobs. Don't just say, hey, you're in our case, the staff accountant. No, you're the CEO over these 7 clients. You run them to the best of your ability. And then in working with family, what we ended at, make sure that it's not an emotional decision, but that they are truly the best to do the job. So I think there was a ton of great things on this episode, guys. Make sure you share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Of course, we're going to post the clips and get all that out there. But let's try to make this episode do crazy numbers. Chris, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Until the next time, guys, you take care of yourselves, and we're going to be dedicated to continuing to find you the best people we can bring on here to share their journeys, how they're creating a legacy for themselves and their family, and more. All right, until the next time, see ya.